Regret is a universal human experience, but its sharpest sting comes not from what we did wrong, but from what we didn't do at all. The habits we wish we'd cultivated earlier, the practices that quietly compound over time into wisdom or waste. It isn't just about productivity hacks or self-help trends. It's about thinking hard on the relationship between time, intention, and the patterns that shape who we become. To examine this is to confront a paradox. The habits that matter most are often the simplest, yet their power lies in their daily repetition, not their complexity. They are the quiet architects of character, invisible in the moment, but hard to miss when you look back. Consider the habit of daily reflection. Many spend years reacting to life on autopilot, only to wake up one day wondering how they arrived at a destination they never consciously chose. Reflection is the antidote to this drift. It's the practice of pausing to ask, does this align with who I want to become, rather than, does this feel good right now? History is filled with individuals who carved out moments of stillness amid chaos. Leaders in war rooms, artists in cluttered studios, parents in sleepless nights, who use these pauses to course correct. Their journals, letters, and legacies reveal a common thread. They treated reflection not as navel-gazing, but as a tool to separate signal from noise. This habit builds what might be called intentional memory, where you actively curate your life's narrative rather than letting circumstance write it for you. Closely tied to this is the habit of embracing discomfort. Most people avoid discomfort, not realizing it often points toward growth. Think of the athlete who trains in the rain, the writer who drafts a terrible first page, or the entrepreneur who pitches ideas to skeptical audiences. These individuals aren't masochists. They've learned that discomfort is the brain's way of signaling the edge of their current capabilities. Modern research supports this. Neurons fire more intensely when we're challenged, forging new pathways that make future efforts easier. The key is to reframe discomfort not as a threat, but as a map. When you consistently lean into what feels difficult, but meaningful, you expand your capacity to handle life's inevitable storms. A related habit is cultivating incremental discipline. Motivation is unreliable, but discipline is a renewable resource. The difference lies in treating discipline as a skill to hone, not a trait to inherit. For example, someone who writes 500 words daily, rain or shine, isn't relying on inspiration. They're building a mental ritual. Over time, the act of showing up becomes its own reward, independent of outcomes. This mirrors the philosophy of craftsmen through the ages. The potter who centers clay day after day, the musician who practices scales long after mastering them. Their focus isn't on perfection, but on the process itself, trusting that mastery emerges from repetition, not eureka. Saying no with conviction is another undervalued habit. Every yes is a trade, a slice of time, energy, or attention given to something else. People who excel at long-term goals aren't necessarily more talented. They're just more ruthless about guarding their priorities. A famous inventor once declined a prestigious dinner invitation, explaining, "I cannot afford to interrupt my work." This wasn't arrogance, but clarity. The habit of refusal isn't about rejecting others. It's about affirming your values. Modern culture glorifies busyness, but strategic no's create space for the rare yeses that truly matter, the projects, relationships, and moments that align with your deepest intentions. Consider treating failure as data. This practice transforms setbacks from dead ends into detours. Many spend years fearing mistakes, unaware that error is the brain's most efficient teacher. The surgeon who reviews every complication to refine their technique narrows the path to discovery. Such individuals don't personalize failure, they dissect it. Neuroscience reveals why this works. Analyzing mistakes triggers the brain's problem-solving networks more effectively than celebrating successes. The habit isn't about avoiding falls, but learning how to fall forward, extracting lessons without letting shame cloud the insight. Practicing deliberate gratitude is often dismissed as cliched, but its power lies in its ability to rewire perception. Gratitude isn't passive positivity, it's active recognition of what sustains you. Soldiers in trenches have written about finding beauty in shared rations. Prisoners in cells have chronicled small acts of kindness between bars. These aren't cliches, but survival strategies, ways to anchor themselves in meaning when despair threatens to drown them. Modern studies echo this. Gratitude practice reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, and enhances resilience by shifting focus from scarcity to abundance. The habit works because it's not about ignoring pain, but paying attention, ensuring you don't overlook the resources you already have. Building friction into consumption is a habit for today's age, the age of excess. The mind thrives on challenge, but wastes away on ease. Ancient scholars memorized texts because books were scarce. Today, we skim endless content, but retain little. The solution isn't to reject technology, but to design barriers that force engagement. A chef who hand-grinds spices tastes nuances that a prepackaged meal obscures. A student who writes notes by hand remembers more than one who types. This habit recognizes that effort deepens value. When we sweat, we care more about the outcome. It's why rituals matter. The act of slowing down to brew tea, stretch before a run, or sharpen a pencil primes the mind for presence. Seeking mentors in unexpected places widens the scope of learning. Formal education often teaches us to look upward for guidance, but wisdom flows sideways and downward too. A janitor's consistency, a child's curiosity, a stranger's resilience. These can be as instructive as any textbook. History's great innovators often credit accidental teachers who shaped their thinking in unplanned moments. The habit involves staying humble enough to recognize that expertise wears many faces and curious enough to ask, what can this person teach me? Even in unlikely encounters. Schedule rest to avoid burnout. Making it non-negotiable counteracts the myth that exhaustion equals good work, or just good in general. Burnout isn't a badge of honor, it's a failure of foresight. Consider the composer who napped daily, waking with melodies in mind, or the CEO who attributes clarity to morning walks. These individuals treat rest not as laziness, but as strategic renewal. Biology supports this. The brain consolidates memories and solves complex problems during downtime. The habit requires rejecting the cult of busyness to honor the rhythm of exertion and recovery, a dance as old as harvest cycles and hibernation. Finally, letting go of perfection liberates creativity. Many delay starting projects until conditions are perfect, not realizing that done is better than perfect. An architect's first sketch is crude. A poet's draft is awkward. A startup's prototype is flawed. But all are necessary steps. The habit of shipping before ready combats the fear of judgment by prioritizing momentum over polish. It's the philosophy of the sculptor who sees the statue in the stone. Progress emerges from chipping away, not waiting for a divine vision. These habits share a common thread. They treat time not as an enemy to outrun, but as a collaborator to engage. Each practice is a vote for the person you want to become, a small defiance against the randomness of distraction and complacency. They require no special tools, only the willingness to show up consistently, to reflect, refuse, rest, and risk, even when results aren't immediate. The regret of not starting something sooner stems from a misconception that the best time to plant a tree was decades ago. The truth is, the second best time is today. The second best time to do anything you haven't done is today. Habits are forgiving. They don't care how late you begin, only that you begin. A gardener who plants seeds in midlife still sees blooms. A writer who starts at 40 still leaves a legacy. What matters isn't the tally of lost days, but the decision to stop losing them. In the end, these habits are less about self-optimization than about power over yourself. The gradual reclaiming of your attention, energy, and potential from the cultural currents that scatter them. They rebel against and crush the myth that meaning lies in grand gestures. They remind us that a life well lived is built not on a few dramatic choices, but on thousands of ordinary ones, repeated daily, until they become the invisible bones of who we are.